So like I was talking about, we've been in John chapter 15 this semester. A lot of the lessons that we've done, a lot of the other nights that we've done have been focused on this whole idea of Jesus being the vine. Part of what comes after that, we have not touched on as much, which is what I want to read tonight. And it's one of those passages that, again, is just rich with some things that we can learn. I mean, it also just has some concepts in it that, at least for me, are like a little bit mind-bending. So what I want to do tonight is give us just make it a little bit more simple maybe for us to be able to understand. I want to be able to know how we can attach to it. So what I'm going to read tonight is in John chapter 15. I'm going to start in verse 9. So if you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn to that. We're going to be in John chapter 15. I'm going to start in verse 9. This is after Jesus has talked about how he's the vine, we are the branches, we abide in him, and he abides in us. He allows us to bear fruit like we talked about a couple weeks ago. And then this is what he says in verse 9. He says, I have loved you even as the Father has loved me. That is one of those just kind of mind-bending passages that is hard to wrap my brain around sometimes. But he says, I have loved you even as the Father has loved me. Remain in my love. And when you obey my commandments, you remain in my love, just as I obey my Father's commandments and remain in his love. I have told you these things so that you will be filled with joy. Yes, your joy will overflow. And this is my command. Anytime that Jesus says this, I know I've got to pay attention. Anytime that he says that phrase, he says, this is my command. Love each other in the same way that I have loved you. There's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. So we're going to stop there for now. What I know from my own upbringing and a lot of the people that I've been around as I've grown up, we don't typically have a very good picture of what love is. It's a word that's thrown around a lot, whether you're in church or not in church. It's one that is thrown around a lot. And it seems that a lot of people have a lot of different definitions on what it means. Because I hear people, maybe on their wedding day, tell their partner that they love them. But then I also hear people say that they love a TV show, or they love this certain type of food. And so I see and I go, okay, like this is like the same word, but it's obviously showing something that's a little bit different between the two. So how do we know what Jesus is talking about when he's saying that he wants us to remain in his love and that his commandment is that we would love like how he loved? Because what I want to make sure that I'm not doing is listening to that commandment and then following out in some sort of cheap or not fully authentic love of what Jesus is talking about. So what I want to just start with tonight is giving some definitions of some different types of love, what they may mean, and then how we can operate within them. So there's a couple of different words in the Greek in the New Testament that are translated as love. One of them is phileo. That's where we get the word Philadelphia. If you've ever wondered about that, people will say it's like the city of brotherly love. It's a word that describes love. But the way that that operates is it is based on feelings. So all of us have had this before. This is more of a natural occurrence that we have, whether we're a believer or we're not. There's either people that you will experience or people you'll be in a relationship with, and maybe a friend and maybe a spouse, where we would say, oh, I love them. And what we're really saying is that I have this phileo love for them. I have a mutual affection for them. But a lot of times that type of love is really kind of transactional. It's like the way that we love each other is because I'm doing things for you and you're doing things for me. Okay? And a lot of times it's a response to someone doing something for you. So like whenever I was initially growing up, I'm sure that a lot of the love that I had for my parents was this type of love because I was seeing the way that they were caring for me and doing things for me. And so I had this affection for them because I was like, oh man, like look at these things that you're doing for me. There's also been romantic relationships that I've gotten into before that I thought, oh, like there's this feeling of affection that we have for each other. And what I want you to know tonight is that this is not a bad version of love. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. This is actually something that I believe that God has put in us. Like that's why I think so many of us have experienced it. But a lot of times this is the one that we really can kind of focus on and get hooked up on, is that if I love somebody else, it means that I feel like loving somebody else. It means that I feel like doing something for them. Or a lot of times people will say, this is one phrase that with some people when they say it, I get what they're saying. Other times I'm just like, I don't know if this is what God's calling us to, is, oh, well, like I know that maybe I should love that person, but I'm going to protect my peace right now. It's this idea of, oh, well, I'm just going to not do it because I feel like they're not doing something for me, so I'm not going to do something for them. So I'm going to protect my own well-being. I'm not going to put myself in a vulnerable spot because I don't feel like they would do it for me. Now, there's sometimes, obviously, that we need to protect ourselves if we're in a situation that is abusive or that is actually like way out of whack. Like we obviously have to protect ourselves in those situations. But what I don't want us to do is to say, oh, well, I'm just going to protect myself anytime that it feels like I have to love someone who I feel like may not return it. Yep. Are we following that? Yep. So that's one type of love. It's phileo love. There's also, it talks about in the Bible, agape love. This is one that a lot of us have probably heard of too. It is one that, as I was doing the research for this, I was surprised by, is that they said it's a word that is almost strictly only used in the New Testament of the Bible. Yep. So this was not a word or a definition of love that the secular world used at the time for love. This was a divine love. This was a God-sent love that it was defining. This type of love is sacrificial. It sacrifices and puts itself out there at the expense of maybe even being hurt. And the other thing that I really like is one definition is that it moves first. It is a love that moves first. It is not waiting on somebody else to come and love them first so that they can do it. It's a love that initiates. And says, in the face of what you may be doing to me, even if it's not something that I'm wanting to receive, I'm still going to do what I feel like is best by you. So in John 3:16, where it says, God so loved the world, the word for love there is agape. It's not only that he had feelings for us and that he's like, oh, like they're just so perfect. I want to go and die for them. They love me so much and they're doing all the right things. It's that he had a commitment that he had made to us. That he said, I'm going to love them no matter what. And that he was, in a sacrificial way, stepping in and initiating love with us. Are we following the difference between those two? Mm-hmm. So part of what Jesus is saying in this passage, he says, I have loved you even as the Father has loved me. Remain in my love. All of the times that he says love in this passage is agape. Mm-hmm. We following that? Mm-hmm. He says, this is my command. Love each other, which means commit to each other, sacrifice for each other, do what's right by each other. The same way that I have loved, agape, sacrificed for you. Mm-hmm. And he says, there's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. Mm-hmm. And he's saying there's no better way to show this type of love than to lay down what you would want for the betterment of somebody else. So I know that there's potentially two different types of people in this room. I feel like I've been both types of this person in different phases of my life. I know that there's some of us that are feelers. Can we see by a show of hands, who's a feeler? Yeah, feelers. So when I love somebody, oh man, like I love them. I'm doing all kinds of stuff for them where I want to hang out with them every day. And when it feels good, like we are on. But then when it doesn't feel good, it's like, my immediate thing is like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. Even in times that I've been in romantic relationships, it's like, oh, when it doesn't feel right, this may not be it. Okay, I can see my feelings nodding their heads. I also know that there's other people that are kind of on the opposite side of it, which is I just try to always do the right thing. Who's more on that side? If I love someone, I just try to do right by them. Okay, a couple of us. Okay, let me continue to define it. On this day every week, I just go and get her flowers because I just like know that that's just like in my schedule what I do. It's not connected to a feeling that I have for her. I just go and I just do the thing. Or, oh, well, I know that maybe they appreciate this type, that maybe he appreciates this type of quality time. So I'm going to turn my phone off. I'm going to pay attention to them, but I'm not really in it. I'm just saying, hey, I know you like quality time, so you got 30 minutes. We better figure it out. Okay? It's more just like, it's more of a task than out of feelings. Okay? These are the things that we could fall into if we take either the phileo to an extreme or the agape to an extreme. So what I want to talk about tonight is how can we make sure that we're doing both of these things? Right. Because if all that I do is the phileo, at some point, I will not feel like loving the people that I'm around. Right. That could be anybody. Right. That could be a sibling, a friend, a spouse. At some point, I won't feel like doing it. Right. And I've got to be able to have something that's deeper than that so that I can make sure that we are connecting and loving them in the right way. Or on the other side of it, there's going to be days where I maybe have been really just trying to do the right thing for a long time, but man, it's just a grind to just try and do the right thing over and over without feeling something. How do we make sure that I bring that phileo into it? One thing I thought was interesting, I was looking through different times in the New Testament that it uses both, and it's so interesting how they flip back and forth between the two. In John chapter 5, when Jesus is talking about his Father, he's talking about the way that his Father loves him. He uses phileo. Oh, that's interesting. He's saying that the way that his Father loves him is phileo. So obviously that's not a bad or cheaper version of love. Right. But that part of what he was trying to say is that, like, yeah, even when he's using the word Father, he's saying we have a relationship. There's an affection that we have for each other. He tells me his secrets. He cares for me. But then there's other times, like in this, that he uses agape when he's saying, no, this is something that you've got to do regardless of how you feel about it. There's a commitment that you have to each other. Let's go backwards 1 or 2 chapters here. Let's go back to chapter 13. Jesus is praying in verse 34. He's talking to Peter, and he's about to tell Peter that he's going to deny him when he's going to the cross. So he's having this conversation with him. He's saying, man, I'm not going to be here much longer. And again, whenever Jesus says he's about to not be here much longer, I pay attention because I know, okay, this is going to be one of those points. He's going to give them something valuable here. And in verse 34, he says, so now I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other. Agape, love each other. Just as I have loved agape you should love agape each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you're my disciples. Y'all, I've read my Bible for a long time. For some reason, that one never stood out to me until I was an adult. If someone would have asked me, how will people know that you're a disciple of Jesus? I'd say, because I know all the right stuff about it. And if they ask me a question, I'm going to have the right answer. Yep. They say like, oh, how are they going to know? Well, it's because I just maybe can prove that I'm right. Or I just do all of the right things that it says to do in the book. What Jesus says in this is specific. He's saying, and he uses a specific word, and he's not saying phileo in this one. If we do the phileo, does that prove to anybody that we're followers of Jesus? We all do that pretty naturally. We love people who love us. It says that even later in the Bible. It says, yeah, you love people who love you. Everybody does that. Sinners do that. That doesn't set you apart. You're not special for that. Yeah. What he says in this is, if you will agape others, That's how they'll know, because this is something that's different. I was reading through the book of Mark this morning, and there were some pieces in there where he is casting out demons. I've read this so many times. Sometimes I just kind of zoom through it. But for whatever reason, those were standing out to me today, and I was like, man, so many times when he's going to these demons, they know exactly who he is. They call it out when they see him. And when he casts them out, they listen and move. Right. Do they want to move? No. Do they feel like moving? They know who God is in the supreme authority that he has over them, and he says to move, and they move. Yep. I read that this morning. I was like, shoot, I think that they listen better than I do sometimes. Like there's times that I, as not a demon, as a follower of Jesus, as a proclaiming follower of Jesus, will hear Jesus tell me to do something, and I'll say, but I don't feel it. I'm nervous. Yep. What if they don't like me? I'm tired. Oh, but I had something to do. And I come up with some sort of excuse, and I'm not doing what God is calling me to do. Yep. That was convicting to me this morning when I read that. Mm-hmm. But it's because I realized that some of the places where I have affections for God is strictly phileo. Yep. I'll do it when he makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. I listen to a worship song, and it brings me to tears. Now I'll go and do it for you. Mm-hmm. Or, I was like worried about paying bills, and he provided the money, so now I'll be generous. Mm-hmm. Instead of having this like covenant, commitment, sacrificial love for him, that it's like, if you say to do it, I'm going to do it. And that not only for me, but that what he's saying is that's the only way people are going to know. Right. Because even the demons do the other stuff. Mm-hmm. He's saying that's the only way that people are going to know. Lastly, I want to flip to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If you're a theologian, you knew it was probably going to end up here at some point. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, starting in verse 1. This is Paul speaking. He says, if I could speak all of the languages of earth and of angels, but I do not have, does anyone have a guess? Agape. I would only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, and if I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, and if I had faith that I could move mountains, but I did not have agape for others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it. But if I did not agape others, I would have gained nothing. This is what I want us to walk away from tonight. Phileo is a great part of love. I want you to hear that clearly. This is God ordained. This is a good thing. If we go into any sort of relationship with only that, it will not stand apart from any other religion, from any other people group. We won't have anything different. And that, even like what it was saying in here, that's convicting to me. He said, if I had all knowledge, if I took everything I had and gave it to the poor, like it all seems like great stuff, right? Like that's a lot of times the stuff that we're focused on trying to do better at. But you say, but if I don't have that sacrificial love for somebody else, it was worth nothing. So we have to try and find the balance of being able to have both. What I want us to think about tonight in the relationships, for you, it might be boyfriend or girlfriend, might be husband-wife, might be friend, coworker, someone who's working alongside you. We have to constantly be thinking, where does this agape love fit into this relationship that I'm in? Because it's not going to look the same everywhere. But we have to be constantly trying to, again, listen to the Spirit and say, where does this fit in? Where are the places where we're just going to have affection for each other, which is a great piece? And then where's the times where I've got to dig in and just say, I'm going to do what's best for you, whether you do it for me or not? What I know happens especially in romantic relationships, is that this is what the enemy likes to do. I start dating someone. Which one do you think that the enemy hopes that I have with the person that I'm dating? Phileo or agape? Raise your hand if you think phileo. Raise your hand if you think agape. Okay. I'll tell you from experience, it's probably some of both. But the one that I feel like the enemy tempts us with the most is agape. He wants us to unhealthily attach to someone that we are not actually one with yet. It's someone that we're dating that he says, lay down your life for them. Get connected to them. Attach to them emotionally. Invest everything that you have into them. Because what he's hoping is if you do this too early and outside of the marital covenant that God had, that when this breaks, it's going to destroy you both. We following that? So there's some phileo of like, yeah, maybe there's lust and different things like that may happen from before, but that's, I think, what Satan's really after. Okay, so then once you get married, which one do you think he wants more? Phileo. He wants you to interact with your spouse just solely based off of how you feel about them. And that when you don't feel like doing what's right by them, he's going to go, see, do you even really love them? Are they even really doing anything for you? What is this paying off? Where is your affection rooted in? This is where he starts to come in and tries to trick us of the opposite. So what we have to do, I would say specifically in romantic relationships, we got to be careful of this. Is that when we are dating someone, there's going to be phileo, and that's great, and we're keeping it within boundaries and all of the stuff that y'all already know. But that I'm going to be continually checking on my motives and saying, am I going too far into agape love to someone who I am not in covenant with? Am I completely dependent on them as if we're one and we've only been dating for a few months and I don't even know if this thing's going to work out? Because I could tell you, I didn't have sex before I was married, but I was emotionally attached to people before I was married to where I felt like I had soul ties when I left them, when it didn't work out. Because emotionally, I was so dependent on them that when they left, I was just like, I had nothing left. I had invested too heavily into it. And I also can tell you from experience, once I get married, the automatic thing that Satan tries to attack with is, but you don't feel like it. Why do it? You don't feel like doing it today. And you asked her to do it and she didn't do it, so why would you do it? He'll flip it on you. We have to be constantly doing that. And again, if you're someone who is not in a relationship, but it's just coworkers, friends, all of those things, constantly measuring and saying, where is God calling me to have a sacrificial commitment to this person? Not just so that I can get what I want, but because I'm saying, if they don't know Jesus, he said it's the way that they're going to know. That when I go into work and everyone else in there is slandering their coworkers behind their back, the phileo thing that may make me feel good is to join in, because then I feel like I'm a part of something, right? But what he's saying is, no, I want you to make the sacrifice, even if it means that people don't want to bring stuff to you at work. You are agape, loving and staying committed to the person that you know deserves dignity. If it's a family member, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to just wait on them to come to me to make things right. I'm going to move. I'm initiating, stepping out and saying, I know that maybe we have this disagreement, we have this thing. I love you enough that I'm going to make the first move. I'm not going to wait on you to come to me. Are we following this? I know that typically I have some like applications. What I feel like we have toiled through. This is like, what are the application points? What are the things that people could take home? And I just feel like we just kept coming back to, you just have to be in tune with the Spirit. Yeah. Like it's just the only way that we can know where we're falling off and where we're in the right spot. Mm-hmm. I have to constantly measure my motives with the people that I'm around and say, am I only doing this out of feeling or am I doing this out of commitment to them? Mm-hmm. And then again, like I was saying from before, there's also going to be times I'm going to say, yeah, I can't put that level of love into this relationship. That's going to be unhealthy for me. It has to be by the Spirit. A constant walking with God a constant staying in his word and knowing how he feels about different situations, so that whenever you get into a situation, you can say, God, what does this situation require? Not just to protect myself, not just so I get what I need, but so that, like he says in John chapter 15, so that I can love other people like how you loved other people. So we're going to take just a couple minutes here. I'm going to put some questions up on the screen, and then we'll jump into discussion.